It is straight up 2 p.m. Eastern Time here at the Quarantine Dulcimer Festival. Man, this has been a blast already, and it was just an idea a few months ago, and now it's here, and it is amazing how everybody has come together. So thank you guys very much for being here today. This turned out to be one of the more popular workshops, and it is Mountain Dulcimer Delta Blues. So we're going to teach you how to play the blues on the Mountain Dulcimer. It's very, very easy, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this. So without any further ado, I'm going to play a little blues. Here we go. Can you guys hear that okay? Give me like a nod. All right. Yes, the blues, the blues, the blues. It's a great musical form. It's a true Americana form, and it's one of the simplest forms in the world to play. So where did the blues come from exactly? It made a very, very long traveling migration from Africa. In Africa, the music was a cappella for the most part. And the griots, the wise men of the tribe, would often sing something, a phrase, and then everybody else would repeat and sing that phrase back. And this would go back and forth, this call and response. So when slaves were in the fields after being shipped from Africa, they brought their music with them. And musicologists in the West have discovered that the scales that the slaves were using out there were based off of the minor pentatonic scale. And this has turned out to be the heartbeat, the vocabulary, if you will, of blues music. This minor, these flatted notes in what we normally would associate as a major scale. There were also some notes there that weren't recognized by Western music practitioners. And these notes were reached on stringed instruments by bending and sliding. In fact, the first instance of somebody sliding on an instrument was in the late 1800s using a butter knife on the strings of a guitar. But the blues had a way to go. It wasn't quite the blues yet. It was a tribal music that then became things like work songs, field hollers, ring shouts. You guys have all heard of things like this. Somebody sings back, and it goes back and forth. What happened was the music coming out of the slave owners' cabins, usually European folk music, based off of the 1-4-5 chord progressions. Chords built off the first, fourth, and fifth notes of the scale. Instead of rejecting this music to this land where they had been forcibly brought in, these folks embraced it and incorporated it together with the music that they already knew. And so the blues is a very interesting mixture of being in a major key while singing out of a minor scale. And this clash is part of what creates this very, very heady brew that we know as the blues. And so over the years, it has formulated and developed, and it became officially really the blues around the turn of the century. So around 1900, 1901 is when the first modern blues that we know of came about. And it was born in the Mississippi Delta, and that is what we are going to learn how to play today. So the first thing I want to do here is make sure everybody's got your resource materials. We're not going to go through all of it and play through all of it because this is just here for you to kind of look at and reminds you of some of the things that we'll be talking about today, including the scales, the song form, how it moves, and some other things. But there's a lot of theory here, and I kind of want to just take a look at everything together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, which I have over here on the iPad. And I'll swipe down on the iPad. Screen mirroring is on. And we have the first page here, which shows the D major scale. We will be working in DAD tuning today. And so when you're in the key of D, even though we're not going to be starting off in the key of D, the associated scale is the D major scale. So there we have the notes standard music notation on the staff. Right below that for DAD tuning, we have the tablature. These are the scale degrees. First of all, you see the tablature there and what frets we're going to play in order to get these notes. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5, and 7. And then down below that, attached to each one, there is a Roman numeral, 1 through 7. These are the scale degrees, and scale degrees basically are each note out of every scale that we play to be in a certain key. Notice that 1, 4, and 5 are uppercase Roman numerals. Notice that 2, 3, and 6 are lowercase Roman numerals. And notice that note number 7 is lowercase with a degree symbol like Fahrenheit or Celsius right next to it. So if you build chords off of each note in the scale, you will end up, excuse me, let me do this. If you build notes off of each note in the scale, using the notes of the scale, if you build off of the first note of the scale, the fourth note of the scale, and the fifth note of the scale, you will end up with major chords. If you build off of the second, third, and sixth notes of the scale, you will end up with minor chords. And if you build off the seventh note of the scale, you will get a diminished chord. So every major key that we play in has 7 native notes, 7 native chords, 3 major chords, 3 minor chords, and 1 diminished chord. That's the same for any key that we play in. So you've heard of the 1-4-5 chord progression. That's most of the tunes we play as mountain dulcimer players, whether they be fiddle tunes, old time, bluegrass, and gospel. We're familiar with playing those 3 chords in the key of D. That'd be D major, G major, and A major. Those are the 3 only naturally occurring major chords in every key. We play them a lot. Why is the 1-4-5 chord progression so popular? I guess people like being happy. Happy chords mean happy music, means happy folks. And so that's a very, very popular, and arguably the world's most popular chord progression, shared by lots and lots of cultures internationally. And so the blues uses a 1-4-5 chord progression. And so in order to be able to play the blues, all you need to be able to do is play those 3 chords, and we make little adjustments to them to fit our recipe. So it's a very, very easy form to play with just knowing that. A lot of this stuff is not necessary for you to know as far as the blues is concerned, but it's helpful to your growth as a player in general. Like the whole step, half step thing, we don't have to cover that right now, but it's something to be aware of. So please take a look at that stuff if you're not familiar with it. And then we've got the building of different chords in relationship to the chromatic scale. Again, not something you need to know in order to learn how to play the blues right off the bat. But this is all stuff to kind of help you understand why these things sound the way they sound. But we can get you started very, very simply. Next, we've got blues scales, and we are going to cover this because it is part of, again, the vocabulary of the blues, and it's going to be how we are able to play some of these solo things that you saw me doing. That's all coming out of the scales. We will talk about different scale shapes and how to incorporate them when we're playing. So when we go there, be prepared. The first place we're going to go when we start looking at this is going to be, or the second place we're going to go is going to be these scales. The first place we're going to go is right here. And this is the song form. Today we're going to do a blues in the key of E. And to start off, I'm going to embiggen this and get the form up here while we start working on moving through. So the first thing is this is a 12-bar form, 12 measures. And it's laid out in front of you right now, and the measures are in between those little upright icons there. What you're seeing is whether it's the 1 chord, it'll be a big capital I, the 4 chord, which will be a big capital IV, or the 5 chord, which is a big V. You'll see that representing whatever chord we're going to play there, and then those 3 dashes are beats 2, 3, and 4. So the chord shows up on 1, and then we've got 3 dashes, 2, 3, 4. Next measure, chord, 2, 3, 4. Chord, 2, 3, 4. And then we hit that 1, 7. What the 7 means is we're going to take that 1 chord and we're going to turn it into a 7th chord. And I'll show you how to do that right now. Don't worry about it. So in that first line there, you see we've got 4 measures. That's our top line. There's not a lot going on there. We're on the 1 chord for the whole thing. Then we move on to the second line, and there you see we also have 4 measures. And we're starting with the 4 chord. We're there for 2 measures. And then we come back to the 1 chord for 2 measures again. We won't start off playing the 7th chord, but we will be incorporating that very soon. And then finally, we have 4 more measures at the bottom, starting with the 5 chord. We hold for 1 measure, then we go to the 4 chord for 1 measure. And then we've got the 1 chord, and then we stay on the 1 chord. That is the traditional Delta blues right there. And if we're going to be in the key of E, then these notes are going to be E, A, and B. E is the first note of the scale, A is the 4th note of the scale, and B is the 5th note of the scale. And so E major, A major, and B major are what we're playing. We have got 12 measures there altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over. And now we've got the actual note names up there. Now the one change that we are going to make to this is going to be in that 12th measure, the very last measure. And when we get there and start messing with it, I'll show you. Let me go ahead and just very, very simply play through this form. So we're playing E all along the top. Then we go to A for 2 measures, then back to E. And then finally B, then A, and then E. And it's going to be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is going to be bar 1. Barring at the 1st fret will give us E. Barring at the 4th fret will give us A. Barring at the 5th fret will give us B. See what I did there? Not only are they the 1, 4, 5 chords, but they're at the 1st, 4th, and 5th frets. That just makes it a lot easier without having to go, wait, we're playing the 1 chord at the 0? What are you talking about? I was like, oh, let's just keep this simple. So we're in the key of E for that reason. When I say 1 chord, go to the 1st fret and play a bar. When I say go to the 4 chord, go to your 4th fret, play the bar. When I say go to the 5 chord, go to the 5th fret and play the bar. It's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. 5, 2, 3, 4. 6, 2, 3, 4. 7, 2, 3, 4. 8, 2, 3, 4. that's the form. That's it. There's no bridge, there's no intro, there's no outro. That's it. We repeat this form over and over and over again. So let me see what I want to do here. The first thing I want to do is I want to make a little bit of a change. So I'm going to write this up here. I'm going to make a little mark on this file. So this is the traditional Delta blues, where we end on the 1 chord there. What I'd like us to do is we're going to play a bit of a more modern version of this, and we're going to end up playing the 5 chord in that last measure. As long as we intend to repeat this form, we're going to use the 5 chord. So that means we're going to be playing a B. Can I make that any fatter? How about I take that down a little bit? All right, so we're going to play a B there at the end, and that is a B, not a 13. That's a lot messier. Maybe I'll go up to 1 more as far as the line is concerned. Oh no, what did I just do? Oh no, okay, stop that. Let's get out of markup. Let's go back to what we were just looking at. Go back to markup. Boom. I have a stylus somewhere, I just don't know where it is. Okay, we're going to play a B there. That's going to be at the 5th fret. So I'm going to play that last measure there. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Then back to the 5 chord. And then 1. What does the 5 chord do with the last measure? It leads very naturally back to the 1 chord. It sounds very, very strong resolution-wise. Listen to this. Boom. This is a very, very popular thing to be found in music all over the place, and the blues is no exception. But the last time we play through, we don't want to go to the 5 chord. We don't want to end on the 5 chord. We want to end on the 1 chord. And so I'll say take it home. That means take it home to the home chord, which is going to be the 1 chord. And so you've probably heard that phrase before. Take it home. That means don't use the 5 this time on the 12th measure. Use the 1 chord, and we're going to end our song there. So let's go ahead and play through. And I'm going to go ahead and show my hands here. Stop sharing. So if you've got your eyeballs on your resource materials over there, you can go ahead and look at those. And keep your eyes on them so you don't lose your place. And I'm going to real quick make sure that my picture within a picture is working, because sometimes I have got to make an adjustment and it freezes up. So I've learned today that I need to set it right before I go over here. And now I go home, back to meeting, start video on the minicam, and voila, we have picture within picture. So I can talk to you and we can play. All right, so we'll go ahead and do 12-bar blues, and right now we're going to stick with just 4 beats to the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to the 1 chord. Stay there. To the 5 chord. To the 4 chord. To the 1 chord. Back to the 5. Let's take her out again. Here we go. 1. To the 4 chord. Stay there. Back to the 1. Stay Let's go through one more time. Take it home. And on that last measure, we can just strum once, and that will take us home. All right. So there's our form. There are variations to this form, and there are variations to the blues. Different types of blues do different types of things. You know, this is a 12-bar form, but there's 8-bar blues, there's 16-bar blues, which is a lot of Piedmont blues, which actually sounds a lot like Tin Pan Alley stuff in the 1920s, you know. But the 12-bar blues was the first and probably the most famous.